All right, now I want to talk about people with jobs over 50. The debate exploded this week, and I've got to say, I have just got email after email after email. It's been a flood of it. I've been covered in the number of emails that have been coming towards us here about people in their 50s who find it virtually impossible to get a job. Now, a man who is, I think, one of the best advocates for his cause, and anyone who is representing a charity, a community group, a business, or a political party, listen to this guy. And how he explains himself, because Ian Henschke is his name. He's with National Seniors Australia, and he joins us in Adelaide. There's a bloke who's pinpoint and knows what he's talking about. Now, Ian, I don't think there was maliciousness in what was being said this week. I think that, yes, the wrong form of words were absolutely used, but so we can sort of spend 10 minutes talking about that. But I think there's the more substantive thing, which was email after email after email of people who sent me things saying, I'm in my 50s, I've worked my ass off my whole life, I've applied for 50 jobs and I get 4 people who call me back. The 4 people who do call me back say, sorry, you're too well qualified for the job that you're going for. I think ageism is the actual ism that we need to fight more than any other in our country. What do you think?
I think that's exactly right, Paul, and I don't want to make this sound like a compliment because you've given me one, but the other night on your show you did a magnificent soliloquy explaining the problem of ageism. And I think we have to admit in Australia that we've got a problem before we can address it. I had someone contact me this morning and tell me that they knew of a man who was 59 years of age who's applied for 300 jobs since he's been out of work. Now, we know that people over the age of 50, when they become unemployed, are spending not months but years on New Start. And I was very disappointed when they announced the retirement income review, which we haven't seen the terms of reference yet, when they first announced that, and it was good that Josh Frydenberg did decide to do that, but almost immediately they said, we're not going to include New Start in this. Well, you cannot ignore the fact that in Australia today, the largest group of people who are receiving New Start are the over 50s. And this is going to become a major issue for government because every second voter in Australia is now over 50, so a lot of those people are people who have had a go, they want a fair go, and they're not getting it because they are being told that the employers are in fact ageist. Now, there was an advocate recently just here in Australia called Ashton Applewhite. Now, she said that she found out that in Australia we've got a campaign called Every Age Counts. Now, National Seniors has joined up with the Benevolent Society, and she said she thinks it's one of the best campaigns that she's seen, and I urge your viewers to go and look up Every Age Counts, because this is not about separating out older people against younger people, pitting one generation against another. This is about having the respect of people so that everyone is an adult. Everybody deserves to be treated equally. And if we are being told by employers when they do an anonymous survey that 1 in 3 of them will freely admit that they won't employ younger people, we have got a problem.
Well, also, we have this issue too, where what ends up being frequently the problem is when they turn around and say, as code for you're too old, is you are too qualified for this job. Well, as one of the people who emailed that I read on the show yesterday said, well, I know that, but this is the job I'm applying for. Now, I think in the same way, now again, I don't want to make it easier for people to find ways to say no. I want to make it harder for them to use things like that as an excuse to say no. Why do you think a company, when it looks at someone's CV, says you're too experienced for this junior role, because clearly the person applying for it is applying for it because that's the job they can get?
They just don't want to employ older people. It's as simple as that. I mean, if we took the same attitude towards an ethnic group or a person of colour or a female, you simply wouldn't be able to get away with it. But we know that people do this. And I can give you example after example. I mean, I know of a 54-year-old engineer with a master's degree, with an MBA, with all these qualifications, and she's in the situation of being old and female in a male-dominated industry. I mean, often people actually have to deal with multiple issues, but ageism is at the heart of it. And I find it extraordinary that when someone gets to 50, particularly in the public service, they now offer packages to people and they push them out the door. I'm talking to you from South Australia at the moment, and they've offered hundreds of redundancy packages in the health department. They recently did it with the education department. I think that we've got to look at our government departments very closely. And I'll tell you something else. This relates back to the Treasurer. I had a look at a recent report done by the Public Service where they looked at the age profile of their various departments. The department, this was done a few years ago, but it actually showed something very interesting. Treasury has got one of the youngest age profiles, and Veterans Affairs has got one of the older age profiles. Now, I think you've got to ask yourself, well, if you've got people that are not mixing with people that are 5 or 10 years older than them, they're not going to employ them. And so once you start having ageism and it creeps in, then it creeps in and stays in, because if you've got people that don't have friends or contact with people that are 10 or 20 years older than them, they will employ like for like. So we've let this happen. We've let this happen over the last 15 to 20 years particularly, and we've had companies come in, you know, these consultants, they come in and they say, chop at the top and bring in the new growth at the bottom. They did that, by the way, at IBM back in the 80s and almost destroyed the company. So there are lessons to be learnt that if you think that someone is old and therefore they're redundant, because they've got grey hair, they're dead in the head, you're going to miss out on a lot of people out there that have got a lot of talent. And Australia is actually doing poorly at the moment because we're not recognising the skills of these people, and we are not using their talents, and we've invested a lot in these people. I mean, I find it very sad when we see these stories, and also find it sad that, you know, we talk about the need to retrain them. I think what we should be doing is making sure we don't sack them in the first place. We don't push them out the door in the first place. And the
Correct.
Baroness Greengross, who was here recently, she was from England, 84 years old, wonderful woman from the House of Lords. I hope if she's still around you might get a chance to talk to her, Paul. She said that in the UK what they are pushing for is when people are in their 50s, they should offer them the opportunity to work, say, 4 days a week and have 1 day a week off. So rather than sacking 20% of your workforce, if you've got a problem in a company and the older workforce, simply ask them if they would like to work a bit less, so that people in their 50s could work 4 days a week, people in their 60s could work 3 days a week, and that way you still keep those people in there. You have the age profile that reflects the community, and you give them that option. The German car makers did it when they had a downturn a few years ago. They had the choice of sacking 1 in 5 workers or taking 4-day weeks, and they did that. You've got to think about solving problems more creatively, and I'm afraid in this country we listen to those consultants who say get rid of the old people and hire the young ones, and once they've done it, it becomes endemic. It's like a disease. It's something we have to confront. And I get back to you again, Paul. When you gave that soliloquy the other night talking about ageism, and I urge people to have a look for it, I think you'll probably just Google Paul Murray ageism, you'll find it. You summed it up beautifully. I just want people to listen.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it, Ian. That's really kind of you. I always love talking to you. I look forward to doing so many, many times into the future, mate. All the best. We'll make sure that that link is up on our Facebook page so everyone can go back and have a look.
Can I give you one quick thing, Paul? Paul, can I give you one quick thing before I go? I just want to say that this talk this week about older Australians being a burden and being an economic time bomb is part of the problem, and I want to just tell people that the superannuation policies that came in the 1990s and the number of people that have got self-managed super funds means that the pension will in fact be about half the drain, if you want to call it a drain, that it was 30 years ago. It's falling as a percentage of GDP, and older Australians are not a burden, they're a great asset.
With you completely. Good on you, Ian. Ian Henschke there from the National Seniors Australia, who joins us now. He joins us from Adelaide.